Hello guys, my name's Nobody Special and welcome to Reinstall, a show where we discuss the older side of gaming and see how well it's held up over the years. Half-Life, a science fiction video game first released in 1998 for the PC, developed by good old Valve Software. In the game, players assume the role of Dr. Gordon Freeman, a theoretical physicist who must use his MIT degree to fight his way through hordes of aliens and escape the secret underground research facility known as Black Mesa. Does this game hold up to the hype after all these years? Let's find out. It starts off like any other day in a secret government facility. You're running late for work, there's a disembodied female voice informing you today's news, the usual. It seems like today's project involves pushing a big piece of rock candy into a laser beam. Fun! First order of business is to grab the hazardous environment suit from the locker room and meet your fellow scientists at the reactor. As you can see, the graphics are a bit dated, but at the time of its release, Half-Life was, and in my opinion, still is, a masterpiece. Designed for Windows, the game's engine, GoldSrc, was a heavily modified version of ID Software's Quake game engine with code portions from the ID Tech 2 engine. After you push the giant piece of rock candy into the laser beam, all hell breaks loose. Literally. Shenanigans include teleporting aliens, crumbling infrastructure, and of course, everyone's favorite, free laser beam lobotomies. Now this game wastes no time shoving you into the action, which is true for all games in the franchise. Half-Life's action is probably one of the best in gaming history, with moving set pieces and lots of bullet spraying to accommodate any shooter fan's fantasies. Which segues into my next topic of gameplay. If you couldn't tell already, the game takes place from a first-person perspective, and requires the player to perform various combat and puzzle tasks to complete an objective. The gameplay is pretty solid. You click to shoot, right-click to alt-fire, and space is to jump, and shift is to walk. You run at a constant speed of like maybe 100 miles per hour, and I think that's a pretty damn awesome feature. All the guns sound great and no gun feels too overpowered. The balancing in my opinion is fan-fucking-tastic. Unlike other games of the time, Valve used scripted sequences. Examples of this would include a Vortigaunt ramming down a door to advance major plot points. Comparing it to other first-person shooters of the time, which relied heavily on cutscene intermissions to detail their plotlines, Half-Life's story is told entirely by means of scripted sequences, keeping the player in control throughout the entire game. The game also regularly integrates the solving of puzzles in the core gameplay. Puzzles such as navigating a maze of conveyor belts or using a nearby box to build a staircase to proceed to the next area. It even requires puzzles to kill some aliens, like turning a steam valve to spray hot steam to spray the baddies with. For the most part, the player proceeds through the campaign alone, but the exception is random security guards and scientists that help you throughout the game. The former will fight alongside you, and both of them can grant you access to areas otherwise cut off to the player. The game also features a wide variety of enemies, including headcrabs that latch onto your face, bull squids that shoot slime at your face, headcrab zombies that claw at your face, Vortigaunts that shoot electricity at your face, and hound eyes that blow your face away with shockwaves. There's also the incredibly terrifying Ichthyosaur. God, I hate that thing. The player also faces human opponents, in particular hazardous environment combat units, or HECU soldiers, and Black Ops assassins who are dispatched to contain the extra-dimensional threats and silence all witnesses. The iconic weapon of Half-Life is the crowbar, but the game also features numerous conventional weapons, such as the Glock 17 pistol, Franchi Spaz 12, a MP5 SMG gun with an attached N203 grenade launcher, a Colt Python .357 Magnum, and a rocket launcher, as well as unusual weapons ranging from a crossbow to weapons from the alien world Zen. If you're wondering why some of this gameplay looks different, it's because at the time of the recording I had the HD texture pack installed, which I will link to you in the description below. Two experimental weapons known as the Tau Cannon and the Glue-On Gun are built by scientists in the facility and are acquired by the player late in the game. Though in my opinion, nothing will feel better than blasting an enemy at close range with that Spaz 12 shotgun. Let's talk about the development of the game. Half-Life was first produced by Valve Software, a software developer based at Kirkland, Washington, and founded in 1996 by former Microsoft employees Mike Harrington and Gabe Newell. Valve settled on a concept for a horror-themed 3D action game using the Quake engine licensed from ID Software. The original code name for Half-Life was Quiver, after the Arrowhead military base from Stephen King's novella The Mist, an inspiration for the game. Gabe Newell explained that the name Half-Life was chosen because it was evocative of the theme, not cliched, and had a corresponding visual symbol, the Greek letter lambda, which represents decay in the Half-Life equation. According to Harry Teasley, one of the game's designers, Doom was a huge influence of most of the team working on Half-Life. According to Teasley, they wanted Half-Life to scare you like Doom did. Now that I mention it, I can see the resemblance. Both Doom Guy and Gordon Freeman can run at astronomical speeds. And in my opinion, I think the speed of the character, even though it is a bit unrealistic, provides an extra component that helped produce a fast-paced action experience. Without the speed, the game would be missing an integral part of its core function. The first public appearance of Half-Life came in early 1997 at the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or as it's commonly known as E3. As you can see from the gameplay footage, the game wasn't as neatly polished and seemed to not have as many bells and whistles as the finished game had, which is understandable considering this is just alpha footage. Since its release, there have also been many spin-offs and ports, including Half-Life Blue Shift, where you take on the role of a security officer named Barney during the Black Mesa incident, and Half-Life Opposing Force, where you take on the role of Corporal Adrian Shepard, a HECU unit caught up in the fray also. There has also been a port to the PlayStation 2 and a port to the updated Counter-Strike engine called Half-Life Source. Also released in 2012 is a full conversion mod known as Black Mesa, with updated gameplay and graphics. I suggest you check it out. Half-Life was a masterpiece of its time, showing off traits and features previously never seen in an FPS. It received over 50 Game of the Year awards and by 2008 had sold 9.3 million copies sold at retail. Or what's my final verdict of the game after all these years? I rate this game as a golden potato wedge. It's just delicious all around and has barely any flaws. That may be stereotypical of me to say, considering most PC gamers do find the Half-Life series entertaining, but I think this game actually deserves it. It deserves all the credit that goes its way. This has been Reinstall with Nobody Special. I'll see you guys later.